Like I mentioned, so I think that it's interesting that you just said, you don't have too many people that are, too many just content, webinars, and what I think that hopefully I'm going to present is this, integration of content, but with SEO and with social, and like I mentioned, really there's this whole idea right now that, can you guys still see my screen? Is it still sharing? There we go. Really, there's this whole idea that we have to write for our customers. There's so much content out there right now, and a lot of it is just junk, right? So, how do you?
But it's not on a full screen mode.
I'm sorry?
It's not on a full screen mode.
It should be. Let's see here. Let's do this. Okay, we'll go share. Entire screen. There we go. How's this? Better?
Yeah, it's great.
Cool.
I love this picture. Okay, no, not this one. This one. I love this picture. You probably asked some big designer to do this. It's just absolutely great. Okay.
You did this. Someone did this. I didn't do this. some awesome person. So, all right. So let's jump in here. Yes, thank you for the great introduction. My name is Casie Gillette. I am the Director of Online Marketing at KoMarketing. We are a B2B digital marketing firm here in Boston. I have been in the search space for over 10 years. I've worked on both the agency side, in-house, currently back on the agency side. And really, our whole goal has been, it's not just SEO, but it's content, it's paid, it's social. It's really this holistic online marketing strategy because we know that everything is just blending together. So, really what are the takeaways from this webinar that I hope you're going to get? The first is this search behavior. We're talking about the customer, but the realization is that the way people search is changing and the way that people look for things is changing. And as content marketers, as search marketers, we need to understand what those key changes are. Secondarily, the keyword strategy. So, I know that there's, we talk about keyword research, we talk about keywords, and we talk about, when I talk about keywords, I like to think that it helps guide our content strategy. And I don't just mean, picking one or two keywords. I mean, really looking at the holistic view of how people are searching for, your product, your industry, what they're actually saying, and how do we find out where they're saying it. And then the idea, that bringing this all together to identify content gaps, to make sure you have the right strategy and you're creating the right content. So these are really the three main facets that we're going to go through. But I want to start with this idea of the new customer experience, because the reality is that it's very different. Expectations are higher. What people are looking for, we have much less patience. I don't know about you guys, but when I go to search for something, I'm not trying to search 10 different times. I'm going to go, I know where I want to go, I'm going to ask my friends. The way that we do this has shifted, and we as search marketers need to understand that. So, thinking about customer experience, at the most basic level, it's the interaction between an organization and the customer. And really, this can be anything. It's the way that they interact with your website. It's the way that they interact when they talk to you on the phone. It's they're signing up for your product. It's they're talking to you on social. And the great thing is that, this customer experience piece is growing. And for B2B companies, I think that's an important thing to note is we have customers too, right? This isn't just a B2C play, where people are asking about a product or they're contacting your customer support with an issue. This applies to everybody. So I want to just go over a couple stats here because I think it really matters to businesses as a whole. In less than 4 years, customer experience will overtake price and product as the key brand differentiator. So when we're talking about our products and we're talking about selling our products to other people, it's not just about how great your product works or what the price is when people are looking at the differences with you and your competitors. They want to know about how are your customers liking you, right? Do your customers like you? How do they interact with you? Are they recommending you? Additionally, the good news, I guess, is that businesses actually feel that they're getting there. In a few years, almost 90% of businesses will compete just on customer experience. So, kind of similar to that last stat that, It's not just about your product. It's not just about your price. It's not just about your messaging. It's the experience as a whole. The other thing we have to keep in mind is that people are searching other places. This is such a huge deal, and I have this conversation all the time because, if you're a business, you need to understand where people are looking. I just go and pulled this on Twitter, and this is just a very small segment of people looking for a hotel. Right? Can anyone recommend? Can anyone recommend a hotel in Jacksonville, in New York? People are going to ask their social networks for recommendations. And this applies to B2B too. Right? So can anyone recommend a good website design company? Right? I've seen other ones where people are looking for copying. Right? Does anyone know a good business copier, things like that? So it really does apply to both B2C and B2B. They're also asking questions in other places. I always think the idea of forums is kind of hilarious because when I think of forums, I think of, early 2000s, 1990, people in the forums talking about cars and whatever else. But the reality is places like Quora, they still exist, they perform well in search, and people are asking for real recommendations here on a variety of products. So why does this matter, right? Okay, great, we got the customer experience. It matters because it translates into money. So those stats, when I'm talking about the customer experience and how that impacts how people will purchase, right, it always comes back to revenue. So I think this is such a huge deal. Brands lose about $41 billion a year due to poor customer service. And I'm sure we've all experienced it. You're working with a company and you just have a really bad experience. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth and you just don't want to be a part of it anymore. And this is the reality, that people have other choices and they will go elsewhere. And here's the other side. People will tell their friends, tell people who aren't their friends, tell their networks about their bad experience. 95% of people, right? And the reality is that if you have a bad experience, that's like a new threat now, right? Where you're like, I'm going to go tell my social networks. I'm going to tell people about this terrible experience I had. Customers now have the power. It really is a shift, and it's not to say that you have to be terrified of these bad experiences or anything like that, but we just have to realize that customers now have the power, and brands no longer dictate the messaging, right? You no longer get to dictate how people talk about your brand because customers now are doing that. Here's the other side of the story, search, right? I don't know if you guys remember, but just a couple years ago, you searched for hotels in Boston, and what you're going to get is a list of hotels. Take a look at this result. One hotel right here, right? Marriott. What are the rest? TripAdvisor, Hotels.com, Expedia, Hotels Combined. And they're about reviews. These places have reviews. Right? So if you're on this list of the best hotels, awesome. Right? You're going to be here, but you're not just competing with other hotels anymore. You're competing with these actual review sites. So you want to make sure that you are on this list of the 30 best hotels. And the reality is, I just talked about money. Right? Customers say buying decisions are influenced by these online reviews. So people are asking questions, they're reading the reviews, and guess what? It factors into their actual buying decision. Now, what about this one? If you're looking for a hotel in Boston and you come about the worst hotel ever, I'm not really interested in going here. And in fact, I'm not even going to look at these. There's no way that I'm staying at either of these hotels. And I haven't even looked, at the actual results, right? I haven't clicked into the actual pages. I just know worst hotel, no thank you. And what about Twitter? Anyone here in the States who has to use Comcast, you know how terrible it is. We all genuinely hate Comcast. It's not new. This is go search, I hate Comcast. You are going to get thousands of results. I'm sure some fairly recent. You don't want to be the person that people are talking about and telling their friends how much they hate you. The flip side is that I just showed those search results, and this is Zappos, who I think most people are probably familiar with. Zappos they do such a fantastic job with their customer service. People really know about them. So when you search for Zappos, you see these really great stories. You see all about that they have great customer service, and here's another thing about their 5 great customer services ideas and customer support stories. And if I'm a new customer and I see this, I know that I can go and purchase something there, and if it doesn't work out, it seems like I'm probably not going to have to worry about it. And these are in search too, right? These are what's showing up when people are searching your brand. Same thing with Keurig. I like to use the Keurig example because I think they do a really good job of advocating for themselves, but also connecting with brand influencers. I actually caught a session they did at a social media summit, and they have this whole program where, you know, they are connecting with people talking about them. They're continuously giving things away for free because they know the value is that these people are going to go out there and talk to them. I mean, there's an entire Facebook group dedicated to people who love their Keurig. And so, you know, really the takeaway from this is, you know, if you're thinking to yourself, you know, really what does this have to do with content? Bear with me, it does, it really does, because that content is showing up, right? That content that we're seeing in reviews and on search results and on Twitter and these, you know, forum sites, we need to make sure that we're there. Right? And we need to make sure that we're addressing the questions that are there. So the takeaway is really that, you know, customer expectations are up, and it's something that we as businesses have to face. Customers want a good experience. They want it online, they want it offline, and they're going to tell other people about those. People are also searching elsewhere. Right? They're searching on social. They're asking questions. You need to be monitoring your brand. You need to be addressing questions. You need to make sure that where your customers are, you're there as well. And ultimately, money talks. Buying decisions are influenced by what others are saying online. Right? So if you can help create some of this, you can help inform you know, what that content is and how people are talking about you, certainly beneficial because it translates into real dollars. So the second part of this is around the keyword strategy. So we have our customers, we know they're these high expectations. Well, what does that actually mean? And how do we actually write to them? How do we find out how they're talking and what they're asking about? The second reality is that the way that people search just in search results is also changing. So this Blue Nile research study came out, I think early last year. I thought it was really interesting. A couple of the things that they talked about, that 50% of search queries are 4 words or longer. So when people are going to the, you know, specific search results, they're putting in long tail phrases. Right? They know what they're looking for. And so it's no longer about just you know, targeting that top one broad keyword. You need to understand all of the keywords around that, and it really goes to the idea of entities. In writing for entities versus just a specific keyword. 27% of search queries are questions. This is huge to me. I think this is something that we're seeing a lot in search results with things like direct answer boxes, you know, the knowledge graph. People are going to the search engines and they're asking questions. For us as content marketers, that's excellent because now we know exactly what they're asking and we can write to those questions. We can give them the answers. But people are going to search engines and they are asking, how do I do this? What do I do? Why? Right? And it's up to us to give them those answers. This kind of goes to the same thing. In YouTube last year, or you know, over 2014 and 2015, there was a 70% growth in how-to searches. If you've ever had to fix anything in your house, this probably isn't a surprise to you. You've probably done this, where you've gone to YouTube and said, you know, how do I fix a leaky faucet? You know, how do I make my fan stop making noise? These are clearly examples from my own house. So, you know, YouTube is huge in this. And businesses like Lowe's have been doing a really great job of putting content there to answer these questions. We also have to think about mobile. I know that you know, voice search isn't huge, but there are some really cool things that are coming out about how people are using their phone and their voice search to ask questions. I was actually at SMX West a couple weeks ago, and one of the gentlemen from Google did this entire presentation on the idea of voice search, and their whole thing is that they want your phone to act as an assistant. Right? They want to give you all the information you need before you even know you need it. But again, what we're seeing here is it's a 5 to 6 keyword phrase. right? I'm not just going in and asking a single for a single keyword. I'm asking a question, or I'm asking for something a little bit more specific. And we're seeing it here. So this is kind of what I was alluding to with the knowledge graph, right? Things to do in Boston. Well, you know, you can't just go and put up a small list on your tiny travel site, because here's what you're competing with. They have all of these different things that you just click on here, and guess what? You're taken to that page. And the places that you are competing with in these traditional results, again, you're looking at the TripAdvisors of the world. Here's one of those direct answer boxes I was referring to, and we're seeing more and more of these. You know, we can't just write this like basic content that people can find anywhere, but what we can do is write specific answers to specific questions that our customers have, right? You know, there's a couple great articles I've seen about how to get into this direct answer box. You know, this list here, for example, you know, sometimes it's just as simple as making sure your page is tagged with list items. So certainly something to be aware of. I know for our clients, we spend a lot of time looking at the search results that they're targeting and what is actually in there, right? Are there direct answer boxes? Are there image searches? What is in there that we need to be thinking about? And how do we actually get in there? So in this case, we're putting together an actual FAQ series for a client because there are so many direct answer boxes associated with their key terms. Okay, you know, where are we going with all this? How do I find customer questions? It's great that they're asking them. What do I do with that information? You know, how do I actually put this into play? So I just want to give a quick case study on how the search query really matters and how what your customer is looking for plays a role. So we have a client in the industrial cabinet space, industrial storage space, and when we started the program years ago, they had said to us, you know, cabinets is our target keyword. Okay, great, like it worked for a while. And really, the search results started shifting. So it started becoming very much more e-com focused. So you can see here a lot of things like the Home Depot and Lowe's, Pottery Barn, these, you know, these paid searches that are very specific to cabinets that are not industrial storage cabinets. And so what we did is we figured out that just by targeting some of these industrial cabinet terms versus cabinet terms, we saw this 50% increase in organic traffic over the course of, you know, a year and a half. And that was a big deal because it's not a small amount of traffic. And this was such a simple change, but it was by going through, you know, what people were saying online that we started to see, like, you know what, we really need to think about this. It came from looking at those search results and seeing that these search results are shifting. I think what is really more important, though, is that we saw a 50% increase in organic conversions, because that's really what matters. At the end of the day, we needed to make sure that we were giving the right buyers the right information. So, you know, cabinets was just too general, but industrial cabinets was really speaking to our audience. So how do we find these customer questions? The nice thing is that there's a lot of cool tools, some of which I will talk about, but a lot of times it's just, you know, manual monitoring, manually looking. I like to go through and look at referral traffic. I think referral traffic is one of the most underrated assets in analytics, because I think what tends to happen is we go in and we see, okay, who's sending me traffic or who's sending me conversions, and a lot of times it's perhaps paid. But what are those people who are sending you traffic saying about you? How often do you actually go and look at that? So this is something from, you know, the KoMarketing site. We all write, a few of us write on Search Engine Land, on Third Door Properties, and we know that, you know, people are coming in from the site. But what about SmartBrief? You know, what about some of these other sites? Like, how are they talking about us as a business? How are they talking about our services? You know, are people commenting? Because that's where you can really see how other people view you and how they're describing you in the industry. Review sites. These babies are popping up all over. I see them. There's a couple that stand out. G2 Crowd is one. I know they're doing a ton right now. We actually work with a client called Cabinet M. They do marketing technology platforms. Looking at reviews, things like that. So if you just go and look for reviews, you're going to see all these sites, specifically if you're in the technology space. They're everywhere. But it's great because they're unbiased. Go and see what those people are actually saying about you. See what their issues are. See what questions they have. This is real data from real people. This is an example. So we work with a client who has a CDN. And one of the issues with their site is that it was just very product heavy, very solution focused. There really was nothing on there that was addressing the needs of their customers, right? That was answering these questions. That there was no, what I like to call, top of the funnel content, right? Where you're answering questions that your newer users have. It was just made for people who already knew that they needed a CDN, and here's what it was. So what we decided to do was look at some of these forums. This is Spiceworks. So if anyone has a technology product, Spiceworks is fantastic. It is a really great forum for finding out what people are asking. Highly recommended. The nice thing is they have both organic, so you can go in and answer questions, but they also offer some paid platforms where they'll help you generate reviews from your customers, not paid, right? Just a way to ask them to review your products, and they also allow you to put some resources on there. But Spiceworks is excellent for anyone in the technology space. FAQ Fox, I really love this tool. I use it quite a bit. Basically, you can go in, you put in a keyword, you can put in a couple sites, and it'll break out all the different questions people are asking. So it searches Reddit to find out what people are looking for. You can break it down by, how to, a variety of questions. Really awesome tool. It's free. I think the guy is actually here in Boston who created it, so I'm extra partial to it, but really awesome tool for finding out the questions that people are asking. Uber Suggests, so they were down for a little while. I think they're working again, but kind of the same thing. It'll give you keyword ideas, and you can look at questions, which I like that. I like seeing, what are the other things around a specific phrase, and more so, what are the questions around a specific phrase. And then, like I said, there's some of that basic monitoring. Don't forget about social. Whether you're B2C, whether you're B2B, people are talking about you, and you need to make sure that you're there to address them, to answer their questions. I see so many clients who, their brand mentions are going unresponded to. I see people asking about a product in their industry, they're going unresponded to. Okay, so don't just track your brand, track top keywords that are relevant to your space. Track your competitors. Take a look at how people are talking about your competitors. Take a look at how people are talking about your competitors' products. It's really, really a great way to see real-time information in real-time, customers talking about you or talking about the industry. So what are some of the takeaways here? Like I said, search is shifting. Customer queries are longer. They want questions answered now. Right? And they're going to go to search to ask them. The other thing is, don't assume. Don't assume you know best. Don't assume that you know exactly what your customers want, because you probably don't. Based on all the websites I've seen and all the content that isn't on those websites, it's pretty clear to me that most people don't know what their customers are looking for and what their customers are asking in general. And so find those customer questions, right? Go to the source, check out social, check out some of these forums, utilize some of these question-based tools, and find out what your customers are actually asking about, because that is going to help create your content. That's going to help you fill in that gap to make sure that you're answering those customer questions. Which takes us to our next part, and also the last part. So finding your content gaps and creating the content to make sure that you are addressing those questions. So we did a study, we've actually done it 2 years in a row now, where we looked at B2B buyers. So we ran a survey and we said, a number of questions around, how people use a website, what they're looking for. It was really around the content on that website and what they wanted. And the problem that we found last year, the past 2 years, is that there's really this disconnect between what the B2B buyers want and the content vendors actually provide. Okay, so it's not entirely unsurprising, but it's up to us to make sure that we are giving them that content that they want. So here's a quick case study. So this is the client that I was talking about, that they had this, really just product-focused content. So we went into the Spiceworks forum and we went and saw, what are people asking about related to CDNs? What are their concerns? What are the things that they need answered before they can continue on the buyer journey? One thing that I don't have in here that I think most people know at this point is that for most people, they're doing 70% of their research online before they're reaching out to you, before they're actually going and contacting anyone to buy your product or to learn more. Go to these places, right? They're going here. So what we did is we went and looked at, and we kind of just scraped the questions that people were asking. This is an example of one. And we created this new content. So we created this resource-based FAQ section around these very specific questions. And within a month, we saw a 53% increase in organic traffic. That was just a month. And it was really to these top of the funnel 101 based content pieces that we had created. So when you're thinking about customer questions, there are these other places, right? You can go to these forums, you can go to social, and you can find those out. But what about your customer support team? At my old job, I worked in-house for a little bit, and we spent, at least 15 minutes each week with the customer support team. So the marketing team, customer support team sat down, and we talked about the general issues that the customer support team was hearing about. In some cases, if it's a technology issue, there really wasn't much we could do, but we could keep our customers apprised via social with that info. But one of the things that really stood out and why it was so important is because it showed us what people weren't finding on the site, what content we didn't have that they were looking for. They were reaching out to the customer service team to get these answers. Well, how do we make sure that we give them those answers right on our website? We would never have known that had we not spent time talking to our customer support team. They're your front line. Make sure you use them. Take a look at your analytics. We talk a lot about analytics here. We do a lot of reporting for clients. And the bottom line is that there are always going to be certain topics and certain pieces of content that perform best. Okay, take a look to see, are there themes that you can pull out of here? What are the common topics that people are coming to your site on? What are the common topics that they're converting on, right? The common themes. So, for us, one of the things that we learned, and this is, obviously just a snapshot, a lot of people were coming to our posts about LinkedIn, about Twitter, about social. And what, we kind of found is that we have this really great blog content about it, but we weren't really talking about it elsewhere, right? In our services section, we really weren't saying too much about our social programs, and as a result, we're adding new things to that, and we've gotten several new clients that we're just doing social programs for, because for B2B companies, there is this need, and this newfound need for B2B companies looking to get real insights into their social media and really use it in a more prosperous way. BuzzSumo is basically the best tool on the planet. They didn't pay me to say that. I just generally love it. Take a look at what's already performing well. Right? As you're thinking about your content needs, take a look at what's performing well share-wise. Take a look at what people are talking about. The same thing applies to your competitors. Take a look at the stuff that is being shared on their site. If people are sharing specific topics, specific themes, do you have that? Are you covering that information? I'm never going to say go copy your competitors. I think that's a bad strategy, but it should inform you, right? It should inform your strategy. You should know what's out there. You should know what people are engaging with, and you should make sure that you're not missing that specific content. Shared count is another one, just kind of a supplement. I wanted to put a couple in here. This is a much more basic tool. So BuzzSumo, they cover, you can get some really excellent Twitter information. So, really a lot of, influencer information. You can see what people are sharing. You can see the links. You can see their networks, etc. You can also see Facebook shares here. They've actually added a Facebook analysis tool that's pretty nice. But shared count just really basic. And what I like that it does is it shows you the difference between Facebook shares and Facebook likes. And to me, that may seem like a small thing, but if someone is sharing your content, it means they're much more invested in it, right? They believe in that. It's really easy to just like a specific piece of content. It's much more personal to share that with their audience. So, what are people sharing of yours? What are they sharing of your competitors? If they aren't sharing your content, right, that's a bigger issue. Social, like I said, I really just wanted to put this on here because I think there is this opportunity to make sure that we are covering all of these bases, making sure that we are looking to see, how people are interacting with us, what questions they're asking, what they like, what they're interested in. I also want to talk a little bit about, influencers and how that can impact your actual content marketing strategy. So, for us, we are a B2B marketing agency. I want to know who are the influencers in the B2B marketing space and what's important to them. So again, BuzzSumo kind of does this for you where I can go and see, okay, well, these people, they're really invested in my space, they're thought leaders. Here are the things that they are sharing. Right? Here are the specific types of content that they are sharing. And now I know, do I have that content? Because if you're starting to see a theme with all these people, there's probably a reason. That's what the audience is looking for. So, taking a look at individuals can also be a really big help in figuring out, where your content gaps may be. So I always think hashtags are an interesting concept because the reality is, I make up a lot of stupid hashtags, and that's really not what you should be doing, for your business. But hashtags can help you find pieces of information. They can help you figure out, what people are talking about, the content they're sharing. Keyhole is a tool that what I like that it does is it'll take a specific term, it'll take a specific hashtag, and it'll show you demographic information around that term or around that hashtag. It'll show you other hashtags to use. It'll show you other terms to use. It'll show you influencers. It just does a lot. So, if you're going to be sharing this content that you work so hard to create, make sure that the most people are seeing it and that the right people are seeing it. And this can kind of help show you, who those people might be, how they're talking about things, what tags they're using. So what are the takeaways here? I think the main thing is there's this content disconnect, right? The content being produced isn't necessarily what buyers want. And we have to use our data to figure that out. So, we want to make sure that we're looking at all these places, we're looking at these questions, we're figuring out where people are asking these questions, but we also need to use the data we have. And I probably didn't state that enough. I mentioned analytics, I mentioned social media, looking at your accounts to figure out what is working, right? What is it that the existing audience already really likes? And then create answers. At the most basic level of any basic level of any content marketing strategy is giving answers to questions, is making sure that you have the answers to the questions that your potential customers have, right? It sounds so simple, but really you want to be the source that they rely on. And that's really what it comes down to. But if you don't know what they're looking for, you can't give them the answers. So really, in summary, we're at the end here. The reality is search is changing, right? Technology is changing with it. We as marketers, we have to adapt. Right? We must make sure that we're adapting and we're figuring out how to use these new places. We're figuring out how to reach our customers, not just in the search result. We have to figure out where else they are and we have to go there. And then that gap, right? Filling in that gap. Make sure that you're giving your customers the answers that they need to make that buying decision. Make sure that you're giving them the experience that they need to recommend you. It really is going to be important as we get into the next 5 to 10 years here. So that is the end of my presentation. Like I said, it's not heavily how to produce content. It's really how do we make sure that we're writing the right content. So that is where we're at.
Okay, guys. Your questions you can use hyper comment or you can use YouTube chat. Depends on where you're watching it. You can type questions. I'll pass it to Casie. Riz, do you have any questions? You usually have, but you have to unmute yourself first.
I know I'm scared now. He prepped me for your tough questions.
I wouldn't do that. I have questions, but Anton, I would go if you go off here because these questions would be more related to my work, so I want them to be recorded and given to the other people. My apologies for that. I hope you understand. If you can do that.
Sorry?
I'm not yet. I don't think you heard.
Okay. I said if you can go off here.
Everything I just... Yeah, I'm recording it. You don't want to...
No, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I do not want you to record it.
Well, I can't do anything. It's Hangouts. It's automatically. I can cut it later on if you want me to, so it won't be in the recording. But I can't stop.
No, what I would do then, I'm going to send her a Twitter message and I can send her those questions. But
sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I've already added her on Twitter. But I have a couple of questions.
I was going to say I'll throw my email in here too.
Do that.
So you can connect there as well.
Yeah, okay, Casie, if somebody else wants to contact you, sure. What's the best way to do it? Email or Twitter?
Yep. So I just put my email up, but yeah, KCG on Twitter. Feel free to connect there.
Okay, I'll paste it on the website. Okay. No problem. So, Ritz, you don't have any?
No, I do have. Now I'm going to ask the questions that are unofficial, right? Okay.
Yeah, go on.
I was writing a couple of things first. If you personally ask me, this is the best presentation since I've attended all the presentations from what Anton has invited me on.
Why?
Because that's more towards my stuff. Okay. What I've understood. Correct me if I'm wrong. And my apologies for the cell phone that would keep on ringing. First is that the keyword selection do matter, right? It does matter in the keyword selections.
Yes.
It's either having a low CPC or a high CPC, or it has a low search or a high search. It does not matter that, right?
So I like to think about it in a couple ways. So because if you're going to shoot for some of those long tail queries, right? Like if you're going to go, you're going to see I see these questions that people are asking for. If you're going to go throw that into the AdWords tool, it's not going to show you any volume, right? You're never going to see any volume on that. But that doesn't mean that people aren't searching for it because we see it in the suggested searches, right? We see it in some of these things that are scraping the results. So I think it's finding that top keyword, right? So that one that does have perhaps a higher CPC and has that higher search volume, and then figuring out all of the things around it that maybe don't have high search volumes but are more specific to your audience and your product.
Okay, but for example, if you could say that, how can I contact Casie G? I take this as a keyword, okay, and I put it on Google. So all I'm going to get the authenticated information that I require only to contact her, right? So this means I won't get anything. Okay, thank you. Second question. According to your whole presentation about customer experience by 2020, this means the keywords would not matter much, but customer reviews would.
So I think, I want to clarify that because I think there's two different parts here. So because people still have to find you, right? They have to find you through keywords, but how they make their purchasing decision is influenced by other people talking about you.
Okay. if you take an example, a content writing company, okay?
Yes.
If I type it on Google, a content writing company, okay? But the people would suggest me as ABC company is a good
Mm-hmm.
content producing company, and
Mm-hmm.
it comes in search
Mm-hmm.
with positive reviews. So this means I get the positive point, and in 2020 I come in the good phase by
But it
2020.
also means that you have to be relevant for that content marketing writing company, right? Content writing company. So someone has to be talking about you in that specific manner. Right? So it's kind of a twofold thing where the keyword does still matter. Hi, Jane.
Hi,
The
Cassie.
keyword does still matter, but what also matters is how your customers are talking about you. So you want them to be talking about you as a content marketing company, but you want them to say good things.
Okay, my website is a service website, right? I produce content for different companies. It's B2B and B2C both, right?
Okay.
So do you want me to put the testimonials and the reviews of the clients? Okay. What if
Yep.
they are bad?
Well, that's a really great question. And one of the interesting things that I have found doing all of this, research
Because
around, customer
just give me a second.
experience.
Just give me a second. I tell you something. I love to put negative comments because I want them with a reply. I always do that. I put a
Yep.
negative comment, and below that I always mention that. All right, my apologies. We did that a mistake. We can
Mm-hmm.
understand. Furthermore, we would be resolving these issues, and next time we make sure that none of our clients or the customers have these issues again.
Yep.
So again, is it good to
Yes.
put your bad experience over there?
Yeah, so one of the things that is out there is there's this research that shows having negative reviews isn't as bad, doesn't poorly impact you as much as you might think, specifically if you're responding to them, right? So if someone is going through and sees like, oh, this company has responded, it really doesn't impact it in as much of a negative manner as you might think. So having those out there isn't the worst thing unless it's all bad reviews. But making sure that you're responding is really what's key because it shows that you are invested and you are paying attention to what your customers want.
So sometimes this bad review is much better than no review at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about
Hi,
hi, Anton. The other thing about reviews that have kind of questionable comments in it is often you see that the person has addressed the question themselves. They might say, I was a bit nervous about blah blah blah, but it worked out okay. And then the other customers who have that same concern can say, oh, okay, well, she was worried about whatever, and that worked out okay for her. And I have a client who their product is, it's kind of a bucket list product, try once in a lifetime. It's not that common an experience. It's an experiential kind of product. And we get a lot of reviews where people say, ooh, I was kind of like a bit worried and I loved it, So we've published those reviews because that's what people's reaction is. It helps them get over this question. That's as Cassie says, that's a question that customers are asking, and that's a method of addressing the question. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a list of questions. Okay, you need to hold your horses for that. Okay, what about the blog commenting on any website, right? Does it gives a negative review or a positive review? Because sometimes people would love to read about the certain product, even if they don't want to purchase it, but they read it and they give their comments on it. So,
I have sort of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I have sort of mixed feelings on blog comments. I think if you go to like a Moz, right, a site where there's this discussion happening, those comments to me are really valuable. So if you have a community there, I think it's valuable. But from what I see now, like a lot of companies are getting rid of their blog commenting capabilities because I think there are these other platforms where people are leaving that type of feedback. Right, they're leaving it on social or they're leaving it on review sites. I can't speak too much to comment on. In all honesty, I don't really use them that much. I think for most of our clients, like, we don't have tons of people commenting. You know, I think, you know, most of the spam has gone away. So.
Yeah, I've had a few situations where we've had people, you know, make kind of random comments, or, you know, wildly negative comments like, "Oh, this product is total and utter meh." And then somebody else has come back and said, "Okay, you know, why was it bad?" And then the person hasn't responded. So you kind of look at that and you go, oh, was that a competitor? You know, is that somebody like creating a false social media profile and just, you know, saying crap about whatever? And that, you know, for this customer, which is that's a B2B, you know, high-end expensive product, actually the community self-regulated and said, you know, you can't say that's rubbish and then not justify that it's rubbish, you know, because you know, so the same way as you look at comments yourself and go, well, clearly that person is talking nonsense. You know, the community recognizes people who are talking nonsense. So I wouldn't worry too much about the, you know, bullshit. You know, people recognize bullshit, you know, so
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
there is still belief about links, backlinks from comments. So a lot of people, they just professionally put comments all around the world just to get backlinks. I guess it just doesn't work anymore.
No.
But there's still belief in it that if I put a comment, it would be it, and it has a backlink. It helps me at some point. So a lot of people just don't understand absolutely nothing. Sometimes even cannot even read English or whatever language. Just put in comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question for.
There are a couple of questions from public as well. Actually, if we can just answer, because otherwise people will think we just it's kind of for some here going on. Can you see them? But you have to read them out loud. Yeah, it's with asterisks, but one of them is Jane. Jane, I guess it's already.
Yeah, sorry, I was hiding and then I, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, my question was in relation to the buying cycle. Do you find, Casie, that it tends to be more kind of at the beginning or the middle or the end of the buying cycle? If you were to suggest to people where to focus on, where they're likely to find the biggest gaps for B2B, where would you start?
I think that it tends to be at the beginning, because for me, at least from my experience, what I've seen is that a lot of B2B sites, they just focus on their service, right? Their services or their solution. It's usually at the most basic level, a company and product or solution focused site. And I think it goes to, you know, the study that I mentioned, one of the things we found, and I don't think this is anything crazy that people don't know, but people are looking for things like testimonials. They're looking for white papers and case studies, which, you know, maybe that's a little bit more middle of the funnel because they've already kind of discovered you. But I think that companies really are missing out on that top of the funnel buyer. And sometimes, you know, I think part of it is that when you hit some of those maybe broad queries, it's maybe not your exact buyer, right? So you do get a lot of traffic that maybe doesn't convert, but you're getting more people into the funnel who are relevant to your business.
Okay, could you check some other, but you have to read them out loud otherwise.
Sure. So, questions remain: what strategies can be used to build content on a website? And I think this kind of goes to, you know, Jane had asked earlier too, like, you know, what kind of strategy should we have for building your content? And really, you know, whenever you're thinking about where do I take that next step, you know, what am I missing here? I think a lot of it is figuring out what people are asking. I think a lot of it is figuring out what don't you have. I think it is talking to your customer support team. You know, for us, we really take a look at what is currently on the site, what's working well, and what isn't working well. How can we enhance that, right? So sometimes it's even starting with what you already have. Figuring out how you can optimize that, not just for search. I don't mean just for search. I mean for users. How do you take that content that's already there and get people to take the next step? How do you address questions that are coming in? So, you know, we kind of look at the picture of what's here, you know, looking through competitors and looking through those questions to see what we're missing. And then, yeah, talk to your customer support people. Take a look and see what questions people are asking you on social. I didn't mention live chat. For anyone who has live chat on their site, it is an invaluable source of information. Same thing with site search. So if you are using Google Analytics and you have site search on your site, enable that, because that is a really easy and direct way to see what people can't find, right? Because they are going and searching on your site for the information they can't find. Live chat, a lot of those tools keep track of the questions that people are asking, and you can go through and look at that to see what are the questions people are asking. So it is, I think the question of a content marketing strategy is so broad, and we could talk for days and days and days about it, but it really just goes to figuring out what you have, how is it currently performing, how can you help it perform better, whether that's adding CTAs to it, whether that's providing more resources around the specific topic, and then figuring out what else can I add to this that I don't already have.
Okay, some question about keywords. I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, I'm not sure of that question either. So dissolve.
Alexander, who put a question about keywords. We can't figure out what's the question about. If you can rephrase it and type it again, or Casie will try to answer it. Otherwise, I wasn't sure what's it's all about. Yeah. Okay, guys, we're kind of going to an hour. If we do have questions, just shoot now or never. Oh no, never. You can,
no shooting. Typing now. Hammer your keyboard. Hammer your keyboard now, or.
Yeah, you can. You can contact Casie later. I posted her email. She said it's fine, and her Twitter handle, so you can contact her and ask intelligent question. But first, you have to use flattery. Flattery is a key thing. So you have to say, "Oh, I was at your webinar. It was absolutely fantastic." Remember, how professional started was the reset. Out of every single session,
I was very honest, Anton. I was that honest.
Professional outreacher. Professional outreacher is how you do it. You use a flatter. After that, you ask a question. So, guys, who's gonna contact Casie later on, or you watching it recorded, use a flattery. Said, I was there, it was fantastic, and I have this question. Okay, guys, I'll check in the side. Guys, do you have questions? I'll check in our side. It seems to be we're out of questions, and probably out of time, more or less. I do have some questions, but just kind of very longish one about strategy and particulars. I'm not gonna do it. Not today. You're safe. You're absolutely safe. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Was very interesting, and you were absolutely right. We can talk and talk and talk about again. So, well, Jane was here. She's still here, and she was worried that her webinar would overlap. I don't know. Well, we'll see Jane very soon with her webinar on what is gonna be, Jane.
Well, it's related to content as well, and I wanted to focus on using what you already know on your own website to answer queries. So Casie touched on some of it, and one of the key things is search on your own website. So.
Okay, search.
Using data to figure out what questions customers are answering.
Yeah, would be very interesting webinar to watch, and I do have plenty of questions about it, but just I know Casie she wants to go. It's 1 hour on the clock. Anyway, public. Right. No, we don't have more questions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a very interesting webinar. Thank you, Casie. I hope we'll see you here again. I don't know, couple of months, 3 months with new materials, something. Surely, yeah, one day. Okay, thank you, Jane, for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Reese, for coming. I'm doing it, Jane and Reese, because it's on my screen. It's a Google told me to do it this way. So Jane is left. We're doing everything what Google wants us
All right,
to
you
do.
want us to do it like this?
Yeah.
You do like a wave. You do like a wave.
My mom.
Okay, bye. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye. Thank you, guys.